We have a standing protest.
No, I haven't seen her for a couple of years.
Your wonderful, quiet, calm, courteous crowd. Welcome to town meeting. I have first off, the fire department always asks me to please identify the emergency exits. There are 3 emergency exits, 2 at the corners and 1 in the center of the room. That being said, I would like to introduce some special guests who are in the audience with us tonight. Recently, 3 Tufton Borough students competed in the annual pass, punt, and kick competition under the guidance of Dennis Zalembo, our Parks and Rec director. Representing New Hampshire, these 3 were among 38 athletes that were invited to participate in the national competition held on February 5th in South Lake, Texas. I would like to invite them up to join me on the podium and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. They are Samuel Saxby, who competed in the 10 to 11-year-old group. Nolan Kaminsky, who finished 3rd in the same group. And Brendan McPhee, who is our national champion, finishing 1st in the 12 to 13-year-old group. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Give them a big hand. Please welcome the Reverend Kevin Van Brunt, pastor of Melvin Village Community Church and the executive director at Camp Sentinel, who will lead us in tonight's invocation.
Well, invocation/sermon, so here we go. Good evening, neighbors. It's good to see everyone. It's good to be here tonight on this spring-winter evening. Here we go. There are 3 things important in the human life. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. And the third is to be kind. That was said by numerous people, but attributed to Henry James, who's an author. Again, as the pastor in your town and the director at Camp Sentinel, I see the impact daily of the importance of a kind word or action to a neighbor in need. We are all called and we all need kindness. And there's great power in kindness. Kindness is defined as the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. It means curbing your impulse to speak sharply or cruel. We remind our children to be kind with one another. It's interesting that we have 3 distinguished athletes with us. Sam, would you come up for a second? Thank you. I have a challenge for you. It might not have been what you saw in text. What I would like you to do is just put all of the toothpaste, as much as you possibly can, out, and let's put it here so you don't disrupt it. All of us. Every little piece of it. Good job. You're doing it very neatly too, which I appreciate. I think there's a little more, yeah, there's a little more. Okay, I'll look here. No, for that. Perfect. I think we're good. Now, can you put it back in there? Just like our words and actions, and we've seen that before, either a tube of toothpaste or a crumpled paper, trying to get it back to its original place is difficult. I remind us in our post-quarantine exhaustion to be kind. We are blessed to live in such a beautiful part of the world, the diamond in the heart of New Hampshire, as our little community is called. I leave you with this proverb from one of my friends who has since passed, longtime Tufton Borough resident and again very close friend, Peggy Hebden. She used to remind me of her favorite proverb. She said, "A kind or cheerful heart," and she would light up when she said this, "is good medicine. But a downcast spirit," and this is where her face would swizzle, and she said, "a downcast spirit dries up the bones." Remember 3 things in the human life that are important. Be kind, be kind, be kind. That's my message to you tonight.
Thank you, Kevin. At this time, I would like to recognize all members of the U.S. Armed Forces and the Merchant Marine, past and present, active duty, guards and reservists, WACs and waves. Please stand and be recognized. Registered voters who have checked in with the ballot clerk should have a voting card as to be held up and displayed when voting on an article. The laws of the state of New Hampshire specify that only registered Tufton Borough voters can vote on the issues. Those guests who are not registered voters, would you please signify by raising your hand? Thank you very much. I'll ask the neighbors on each side of you to keep an eye on you, make sure you don't perform a felony. Thank you. Our supervisors on the checklist have asked me to remind you that they are not registering new voters at the town meeting. Cell phones, if you have them, please turn them to silent. If you must take a call, please take it in one of the corridors outside so as not to disturb the meeting. Thank you to Kyle Williams Sound, who is responsible for the sound system this night as he has before. And thank you to Dave Cash and the Tufton Borough Central School janitorial crew for putting together the meeting, setting up the meeting tonight. Appreciate that. The rules of the meeting. My rules are based on guidelines provided by the New Hampshire Municipal Association with modifications by the moderator. They're not Robert Rules of Order or any other established parliamentary procedure. The moderator's rules and decisions, and this is important, moderator's rules and decisions can always be overridden by you, the town meeting. You are the ultimate body here in terms of rendering a decision. For your reference, I have published my rules on the 2021 town report on page 25. Here they are. All discussion should go through the moderator. Only registered Tufton Borough voters are empowered to speak at the meeting. However, I may ask for permission for a non-resident voter to speak before you, and I hope you'll allow them to. Speak only once to an article until everyone who wants to speak has had a chance. Any amendment to a motion must be submitted in writing. This is a courtesy to our town clerk, who will be quite busy all night, I promise. If there's a timely motion to end debate, I will ask for a 2/3 majority to agree. But even with such a vote, anyone already standing at one of the microphones will be permitted to speak. A motion to reconsider a previous vote can only be made by a voter who voted on the prevailing side of the vote to be reconsidered. I'll have a little more on that in a minute. A motion to restrict reconsideration on an article may be offered at any time after a vote has been made. And all warrant articles will be acted upon before the end of this meeting. A quick word about reconsideration. Any vote taken by a town meeting may be reconsidered or rescinded at that same meeting or any subsequent meeting. That's New Hampshire case law. Any motion to reconsider must be passed by a majority of the voters, so one person cannot force a reconsideration. You, the town meeting, has to vote if you wish to reconsider an article. Such a motion can only be made after the initial vote has occurred and can only be made by a voter who voted on the prevailing side of the vote to be reconsidered. That's in order that a vote to reconsider is not simply sour grapes for somebody who didn't get what they want. Any article more than $100,000 of borrowed money, that is through a note or a bond, is automatically restricted by state law. A voter at town meeting after a vote is taken may move to restrict reconsideration, which means that any vote must be delayed by at least 7 days. Finally, to those who would speak tonight, please go to the microphone and when recognized, clearly announce your name before speaking. Please do not shun the microphone. If you want to be understood, it's important to be heard. State law now requires that the minutes of town meeting must include the names of all those who speak, make a motion, or second a motion. So please help our town clerk comply with that law by giving us your name when you speak. Okay, we have 9 articles tonight, so I invite you all to be brief and to stick to the subject matter under consideration. I would like to welcome Barbara Lohman, who is here tonight in the capacity of town council. She's sitting right in front where she can keep a good eye on me. And now Mark Howard, thank you. President of the Tuftonboro Association would like to say something about the roadside cleanup.
Thank you, Dan. I am Mark Howard of the Tuftonboro Association, and although most of you probably know us from the Tuftonboro Times that we mail out 4 times a year, we do other things, and one of them happens to be the road cleanup, which we schedule in the spring. And this year, that road cleanup is 23 April. And that's on a Saturday. And we've been doing it now for about 20 years. There'll be somebody in the town office parking lot. But what we need are volunteers. And as you walked in today, just opposite the door is a sheet that includes all of the roads that we would suggest need cleanup. And what we're looking for is, as before, just some people to put their names down. You can use really your own bags, or you can come to us and we'll give you bags at the town office. We'll take those bags from you when you're done and take them to the transfer station, or you could. But we need your time and your effort for anywhere from half an hour to an hour. So please consider signing up for the town road cleanup on April 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jack Whitburn, we had an election yesterday, including the school district, and I wonder if Jack could report on the results of the school election. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. There were two uncontested school board elections yesterday. Dana won in Ospey and Randy Walker for moderator. The two contested school board races. One was in Effingham, and the incumbent James Pittman beat Nate Williams by a count of 1270 to 1140. And the at-large race it was won by Brody DeShays, who got 1,919 votes to Jessica Williams 1,310. On the school district warrant articles, all of the warrant articles passed. And thank you for that. The two of the main articles was the support staff contract for 3 years. It's incredible how hard these people have worked over the last couple of years, and we did every effort to raise their pay as best we could while still keeping taxpayers in mind. And the other was the administrator's contract, which also passed significantly. And again, they worked extremely hard over the last couple of years trying to keep all the schools together. The other two articles that are of note, the turf field capital reserve fund, we've been funding that for the last 10 years. And in a couple of years, we're going to have to replace that field. The cost of that field is going to be about $750,000 to replace that field. We will have enough money because we've been putting this money away for a long time. We'll have enough money so there won't be additional outlays by the taxpayers at that time. And of course, the repair and improvement budget that we put out for $200,000, this money is used each year for some of the major projects that aren't the day-to-day operations of the school. So we had tremendous success in devoting on those, and I'd rather thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, if you're not aware, our current superintendent, Kathy Cuddy-Egbert, is going to retire at the end of this school year. She'll be retiring on June 30th. The school board put together a search committee with the help of the New Hampshire School Board Association and the Bryant Group, which is a consulting firm. We were successful in interviewing 4 candidates, and we have chosen a new superintendent for our schools beginning July 1st. Her name is Dr. Caroline Arkelian. She's coming to us from the southern part of the state. She's in SAU 21, which is down in the Hampton area. But she's been in education for well over 20 years, very well qualified. She did a meet and greet up here at the district a couple of weeks ago, and she'll be on board July 1st. So, and I want to thank you for your tremendous support at the booths the other day, and the schools are back in full session, so it's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Article 1 of this town meeting was the town elections yesterday, and I'd like to report on the results. We had one contested race for a selectman, and the winner is Bob Murray, Robert Bob Murray. Would you please stand so people can see you? Thank you, Bob. The town also elected a new moderator last night, and that's Steve Brinzer. Steve? Marianne Markison was elected once again as to the supervisor of the checklist. Thank you, Marianne, for your service. For Budget Committee, we had the 2 spots open on the Budget Committee. Jeffrey Jordan Reisner, I should turn this so I can see it. Jeffrey Jordan Reisner was elected off the ballot. Is he here? Well, good job, Jeffrey. And the write-in victory, there was a write-in campaign for the second open position was won by Robert T. Roriston. Is he here? Well, we wish them both well, and they did well in the election. Finally, trustee of the trust funds, Chris Sawyer. Cemetery trustee for 3 years, Carol Bush. And finally, the library trustee for 3 years, Gordon Hunt. I would urge all of you to visit our town clerk sometime after Friday, which is the waiting period required by law, to be sworn into your new offices, and congratulations all of you. Let's get to the warrant. I'm going to read the article. We're going to start with Article 2. Article 2. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $124,625 to pay. You know, these things are driving me crazy. Yes.
So, Dan went through and identified all the people that had won their races. I also want to note several people who have completed their terms and are retiring or choosing not to continue on. The first person is Bob Teff, who completed his term on the budget committee. And I'm sorry, Bob, I don't know how many terms you had, but he was on the budget committee for a long time. Completed several terms as a library trustee. I completed 2 terms as a selectman, and it certainly has been my honor to serve the town of Tuftonboro. And Dan Barnard is completing his 10th term as the moderator for the town. Is that right? 20 years. 20 years. A little gift for you in recognition of your long service as our moderator. Thank you, Dan.
Should I look at it?
You may.
You guys are terrific.
I'll hold the bag.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is really nice. We have a man, so I know where this is going to go. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Will. Thank you all. Like Bill, I can only say that it has truly been an honor to occupy this position for 20 years. Thank you. Okay, let's get back to business. Article 2. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $287,500 for the repair and upgrades of Union Wharf.
I'd like to move that article.
Jim, would you speak to the article? Second, please. Is there a second? Gordon?
Yes,
Yeah, we've waited a while to do this, but as anybody who's visited the pier at 19 Mile Bay knows, it's in need of repair. Our intention with this warrant article is to remove the wooden bulkheads that that's around the gravel portion of the pier and replace those with a corrugated bulkhead. And also top that corrugated bulkhead with a walkway so it's a little less treacherous to get off a boat and onto the pier. We've had a few stumbling blocks along the way, the major one being that the state of New Hampshire never gave us a granting right on the property underneath the pier, even though the pier's been there for well over 100 years. And we have gotten pricing on the repair. I sort of have to couch this warrant article with the notion that prices are a movable target these days, and our intention was to do the work this fall after the boating season had slowed down, perhaps in October. I just put my voice dropped. That's all I'm saying.
Is there any discussion on Article 2?
Hi, Chris Sawyer. I'm on the Budget Committee. I'm trustee of trust funds. Once again, thanks for voting me in. It's a highly coveted job. I'm speaking partially as a Budget Committee member, but mostly as a resident. So this was discussed at the Budget Committee, and you know, it's much needed. But question: is this enough to do it? Is this amount on the warrant? Do you have a contract in place to do this?
We don't currently have a contract for this because we haven't gotten the warrant article passed. We have been notified that the steel prices are going up, so we are concerned that it might not be enough. If it isn't enough, then we won't do the job, obviously. We'll have to come back and see you next year.
Right, that's what I'm concerned about as well. I think a lot of people here are concerned about the rise in prices. I mean, you know, is there any asphalt involved in any of this with the top coat, you know, on the ramp or anything? Besides steel, wood, any other building products? And labor, of course, but that's...
Okay, the gravel portion of the pier would be re-graveled. The cement portion of the pier is going to be, it's a slab on rubble. The cement will be removed, so the whole pier will be gravel surface. That's the plan that we have before us.
Right. I mean, I want to see it done too, but putting money towards something that's, there is a possibility that it won't happen is kind of concerning. And I mean, I understand, you know, we might be lucky, but the way that things are going right now, it's pretty volatile. So I'm just asking the question if there's enough, if you think that it's a real possibility or it's a possibility.
Thank you, Chris. Any more discussion on Article 2?
Philip Hunter. I was just curious if you have a diagram or a plan of what the whole proposal is. I saw an application at one point that included a covered canopy section over the end of the dock area. And I was wondering if that's included in this budget, and is this really about improving it for the town's use, or is this improving it for the fire department or fishing game, or what's the goal of improving? Is it just to maintain what's going on, or is it?
Okay.
Start with, is there a diagram or some sort of scope of project?
There is a plan of work that's available at the town office. It doesn't include a covered patio at the end.
That was in the original application, was it not?
It wasn't in the application, it was in a preliminary drawing. So as discussions went along, the plan has been modified until we got to the point where DES has agreed to the plan that we've got, and it seems financially feasible. It is for the benefit of the fire department, for fire and rescue, for fish and game, for access to the islands, for transient boaters. It's a safety risk in certain degrees, and we're going to address all of those problems if we go forward with this.
So your goal is to open side of the wharf.
Right, although we've had discussions with DES about dredging the other side, they've been reluctant to let us get a dredging permit for that. We're going to continue to look at that.
Thank you.
Are there any further discussions or questions regarding Article 2? Seeing none, I shall reread the article and ask you to vote. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $287,500 for the repair and upgrades to Union Wharf. All those who are in favor of Article 2, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed, in a like manner. The ayes clearly have it, and I declare Article 2 is passed. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $124,625 to pay a fourth and final installment toward the fire truck acquired in 2018, as approved by voters pursuant to Article 6 of the 2018 town meeting. The principal amount is $120,209.83, and the interest is $4,415.17. This 5-year lease agreement contains an escape clause.
I'd like to move the article.
Article is moved. Second. Steve Brinzer. Thank you.
I'm going to break with propriety for just a minute. Hey, Betsy, I'm up here now. Good to see you. The article is very straightforward. This is our last payment on the newest fire engine that our department has. We're going to own it. It's pretty simple. It'd be a really good idea to make the payment. Thank you.
Any discussion regarding Article 3? Seeing none, I will indeed read the article once more. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $124,625 to pay a fourth and final installment toward the fire truck acquired in 2018 as approved by voters pursuant to Article 6 of the 2018 town meeting. The principal amount is $120,209.83, and the interest is $4,415.17. This 5-year lease agreement contains an escape clause. All those in favor of Article 3, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed, signify in a like manner. The ayes clearly have it, and I declare Article 3 is passed. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $468,000 as additional funding for the construction of the new police facility. This article will be non-lapsing until 12/31/2027 or completion, whichever comes first. Motion?
I move the article.
Second. Steve Brinzer again.
So I'm sure you all remember at town meeting last spring, we approved $1,772,000 for the construction of a new fire station. That included the use of capital reserve funds.
Police station. Police station, not fire station.
I'm sorry. Police facility, right. So that included the use of capital reserve funds, a $341,000 grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and spending from our current taxation. This was based upon a best estimate that we had from our general contractor at the time of the meeting. We found out subsequent to that prices had gone up substantially, and we did not have enough money in the budget to move forward with the project. this additional money is what is needed to achieve a guaranteed maximum price contract with our general contractor and provide enough money to get the facility built. There's been much discussion on the board about the cost of some of the items as they're detailed in the cost estimate. The only way we're going to settle exactly what the cost is when the job is actually bid, when the bids are presented to the board and the low bidder is selected. I believe it's the consensus on our board that the price will come in below this number. But this number is a number which the contractor has guaranteed us the job can be completed within. There's been some discussion about should we change the design of the police facility, look at making it smaller, taking some of the features out. And I will only comment that the grant that we have from Rural Development Agency for $341,000 is based upon the current design which they have approved, and any change to the design, it's our understanding, will necessitate going back through the grant approval process again and may not result in achieving a grant or the same level of grant.
Comments, questions? Go ahead, Chris.
So, I'm not arguing about getting a new police facility. Here's something to consider. Gas prices in 1 month have gone up 71 cents in New Hampshire. The cost of construction equipment, materials, has doubled from November to January. Why are we going to take money that we're not going to get a value for and put it away? The money that's there is going to stay there. We're not doing anything with it. It can be used for the new police facility. And if you listen carefully to what's just been told to you, this is a cost estimate. A contractor has told you that it can be built for that, but there's cost overages all the time. How much is a sheet of plywood today, do you know? It's about $60 for a sheet, 2x4. It's at least $10. So I'm not arguing the point that if this is what the townspeople want, but I'm talking about it being cost effective. The police facility is not in danger of deteriorating within the next 12 months, I'm pretty sure. I don't think that would be out of the scope of reality. But for us to put more money away and to pay higher taxes, because we're going to be spending a whole lot more money on a personal level here. It's already happening and it's going to continue to happen. There's a lot of volatility in the world right now. And like I said, I'm not against what the townspeople want, but spending this kind of money and being taxed on it right now, is that really the best choice? And as I said, there's nothing in place. They can't even put a contract into place because we haven't voted on it and we don't have the money to spend. But that's okay. There is money there now and we can put more money away next year. And then maybe we'd be able to get the facility that they really need.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions and comments regarding the Article 4?
Good evening, my name is Gordon Hunt. I'm chairman of the Budget Committee. And I stand here to tell you that I've been in favor of the new police facility since its inception. I do have a question, however, for the selectmen because I'm getting different answers to the same question. Do we have a guaranteed maximum price on this building from the contractor? Yes or no?
Yes.
We have it, okay. So the money is appropriated tonight for this. That building is going to be built for that price, complete, turnkey, walk in the door, correct?
That is my understanding, that the guaranteed maximum price that the contractor presented us, he will build the building for that price.
What is that price?
Please, hold on.
Well, I'll take you at your word, but as I said, I've been getting, different stories from different sources within the community. You're telling me it's a guaranteed maximum price, and I'm leaving. Because the last thing I think any of us want to do, we can start it, get 90% complete, and then not be able to finish the building because we have to come back again. This will be the third bite of the apple.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Yes,
on the board of Melvin Village. I'm not real comfortable with the answer. I see two of you looking at each other, one not looking. I'd appreciate more detail and more definitive of an answer as to whether we really have that guaranteed maximum price. Thank you.
You want to answer that?
I'll look at that one. We have gotten a guaranteed maximum price from the contractor. Whatever it is, $2 million.
That's his piece,
$2,136,000. The concern I have as one selectman, and I think the board shares this concern, is actually getting that project done for that price, given the economy that we currently have and the problems with Iraq, or not Iraq, sorry. That being said, we're not going to get final bid prices until we have money in hand. So if our contractor or our building contractor says that this is the amount of money we can build a building for, if you put the money together, we'll put it out for bid. That's the only way we're going to get solid bids on this job. Right now we're getting pricing that might have happened in November, or might have happened in December, maybe the 1st of January, but as you all know, those prices change. So I think the board going forward is fully prepared if this contractor can't comply with this guaranteed price, that we'll find different contractors and we'll go through the process again.
Barry Ennis. I'd like to recognize the Tufton Borough Police Department. I think everybody in this room would agree that they do a great job. I think everybody in this room probably feels very safe living in Tufton Borough right now, knowing that we have this police department and how they operate. And I think if we delay a new facility, we'll still be just as safe. The police will do just as fine a job that they would, and if we had a new facility, we wouldn't be any safer. They wouldn't do a better job. It would be status quo. But during the situation in the world right now, the world's a mess, our country's a mess. Let's not get Tufton Borough in the same mess, but the prices, everything is skyrocketing. There's people already stretched thin. COVID about killed them. Now we got this nonsense going on. That's going to kill them. We don't have a final price on this building. It's been 3 years. I've been on the budget committee for 3 years, and it's been back and forth and back and forth. Do we have a final price? No. Do we have a price? Maybe we do. Does it include all the soft costs? Well, yes. Well, maybe no. There's just too much uncertainty. Let's put a moratorium on this project for a couple of years. Get everything figured out, do your paperwork, talk to your architect, see where the economy goes, and then do something. But for now, I think everybody should vote no, just to save the town of Tufton Borough and the taxpayers. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Peter Slusky. I'm one of the trustees of the trust funds. I have a quick question. Is this $468,000 to go into the capital reserve fund in lieu of final contract approval and everything? Is that the idea behind that? Is that what this money is this money going to be raised from taxation this year and go into the capital reserve fund? What is going to happen with this money?
So the way the article is written, this money will be raised in 2022, and it will be a non-lapsing article, which means that it's available to spend through December 31st of 2027. So this is not an article to put money in the capital reserve. It's an article to raise money to complete the project.
Because my concern is, of course, the rising prices and different types of people have talked about, but also even the money we have in the capital reserve right now, which is over $740,000, because of the volatility in the stock market, the war in Ukraine, many things of that nature, we're finding that valuation is starting to drop for the first time in years. And I just don't want to see, if that money comes up short, and we have to have more money because this isn't enough because of the final bid, I really think that this should be put on hold for at least another year to find out what is going to happen in this world that we live in. So, but that's the concrete truth, is that the funds are dropping, not tremendously, but enough to be worrisome. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Hi, Mike McNally. So, I looked at the plans, along with everybody else that has commented before me, that, the rising volatile, the price, everything going on. I used to bid commercial construction projects. I was an estimator, I was a project manager. Until we have a signature on that on a contract there, I don't guarantee, I wouldn't say that we had a guaranteed maximum price for a project, especially the way things are going. I know how the bid packages work. I understand what goes into them. Until we have a contract with a signature on it, I definitely agree that this should probably be at least put on hold for another year, see what the market does. And we might be in a better position to do it next year. We don't know. But right now, I agree with everybody that's spoken before me on that.
Any more comments and questions regarding Article 4?
Guy Pike, selectman. My job as a selectman is to not only manage some of the financial aspects of the town, but to do everything in my power to implement the will of the voters, which is you people. Now I want to introduce Guy Pike, citizen, and I agree with everything that's been said here so far. Thank you.
Max Ledoux. Pastor Kevin reminded us to be kind. In the last 7 years, my property taxes have gone up 50% because people in this room voted for giant projects that we don't need as a town, but that people in this room wanted. So if you don't care about raising my taxes, which is fine, you don't have to. You don't have to be kind to me. But what about the retired person who just can't afford it? What about the young people with children, young families, and they're just getting by? What about them? You don't have to care about me. A lot of you don't. Care about those people. Be kind. Don't raise their taxes more.
Thank you. Any more comments? I see one. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mark Saxon. I apologize for my phone going off earlier. I've never had that happen. Do we know the costs are going to drop in a year? Or if they go up another year? Are we going to be back in the same conversation in a year? Or 2 years? Who's to know? So just food for thought when it comes to cost. We don't even know. It could be worse in a year.
Thank you. Jill.
Jill Cromwell, Melvin Village. I have a similar point to make, and that I am the chair of the Capital Improvement Program Committee, and we had 4 other projects that were on our report that we gave to the selectmen and the budget committee. And they total at least $450,000 that we recommended for this year. And the selectmen put those off because they felt they needed to bring the police station forward to get it done. And they knew there was going to be a significant amount of money that needed to go to that. So I just want to point out, if you put things off for another year, there's a whole list of projects that are on this report that still need to be done in our town. And they're not just pie in the sky, dreams. They are a new plow truck in case our plows break down, we need to plow our roads. Paving for the highway garage that we've had on the list for at least 5 years and we keep putting off every year. A backhoe replacement at the dump. There's things like that. The equipment we have now that needs to be replaced. So that's one thing just to keep in mind. The other thing is I'd like to know if we pass all the articles that are listed in the warrant tonight, how much of a tax increase that will be. Or are we, because we had a big bump last year in our taxes, because we voted for the first part of this police station, it was a big project. The year before that, we had the library. Where do we stand? Or have we been able to kind of keep the taxes at the same level, even with this warrant getting approved? That's my question.
All right, just for a clarification on the budget of this, we're currently, with the warrant articles this year and the operating budget, if the operating budget passes, $37,709 less than last year's budget and warrant articles. The budget last year was underspent by $210,712. That money will go into the undesignated fund balance. Every October, we set the tax rate. Contrary with testimony that was just made, the tax rate has not gone up in the last 4 years. Somebody's valuation may have gone up, but the tax rate has not gone up. And it's our job to keep the tax rate stable. So in answer to your question, this warrant article, in addition to the rest of the warrant articles in the operating budget, is actually $37,709 less than last year's budget and warrant articles.
Thank you. Bob?
Thank you. Bob McWhorter again. Question to the selectmen. If this article does not pass, would you still try and do something with the money that we have when it was approved last year?
So, what I will tell you is that the project that we have currently, we don't have enough money available to do. So I don't, there is nowhere to go with this project. I certainly wouldn't entertain starting the project not having the money to finish it.
So a couple other things that maybe weren't mentioned that are important is I put in for a grant this year. It could be up to $125,000 to cover some of the Homeland Security related issues, like the generator, the alarm system, security system. I don't know that that's going to be available next year if we put it off. Redesigning the building, we'd have to probably incur some cost because our plans have to be stamped and signed for accessibility. So if there's a redesign of the building, not only does it jeopardize the potential for the federal grant, there is going to be a cost for architectural fees and costing those fees. So there's just other things to consider, that's all.
Thanks, Andy. Chris?
So I just want to point out one thing. So the Capital Improvement Committee brings forth things that are basically wants, some of them are needs, and I understand where Jill was coming from, But I also don't want to take away from what is, I think, being expressed. We're not saying we don't want a new police facility. Yes, we want one. And you're right, you're 100% right. I don't know where things are going to be in 12 months. But I also know right now, right at this very moment, there's a war going on. It's active. And I'm really hoping and praying that it goes away very quickly and things get stable here. My whole point to this is, if you get the $486,000 and it's not enough, we're going to be taxed. It's coming from taxation, you heard that. And Pete Slusky, he's our treasurer of the trustee of the trust funds, he's right. Our fund balance, the value is going down, okay? This is monitored by the economy, the global economy. It's got nothing to do with Tuftonboro, it's got nothing to do with anything else. So, it's not that it's not needed, and it's not that it's not wanted, it's what we are going to get for the dollars we're going to spend. And I would really, it would be a shame if we got, the design has to stay the same, that's fine. We get all the way through, and we can't finish it. And they cannot have the proper interior, they have the exterior. That's the point I'm trying to make, and the money's gonna sit there, it's not gonna go away.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any more questions or comments regarding Article 4?
Yeah, just a reminder for some of you who've been here as long as I have, or maybe even longer. We did this once before. We had a plan for a fire station and police combined facility. And the same arguments were put forward. And it was put on hold and put on hold and put on hold. We ended up with a fire station alone that cost more than that combined project. So we can put this on hold. We can take all of the money that we've gotten so far and give it all back to the undesignated fund balance and not to the police station at all. But the only way we're going to get a police station built and get fixed pricing is if this warrant article passes. And just as an aside, when I was a county commissioner, we built a new nursing home. We were required to raise $21 million before we went out to bid, because that's the pricing that we were given. By the time that facility was done, it cost us $18 million. You need to empower us with this budget to save some money on this facility. I look at the proposed bids that are coming in here, and I see the savings. But we can't go out to bid unless we can satisfy the maximum price potential that our contractors put out there. We can't work on the bidding, we can't work on the pricing until we have that number. So you can put it off, but it's going to cost you more money later, it's going to cost us all more money later. And it just takes all of our ability as a Board of Selectmen away to actually work this project down to a reasonable cost. Thank you.
Go ahead, Steve.
Steve Brenzer, Melvin Village. So Chip, what I heard you just say was that we don't really have a guaranteed maximum price. We have a number that the contractor would be willing to go out to bid for, but the amount may or may not be adequate for what we're trying to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, we don't have a contracted maximum price.
We don't have a legal document.
Right. We're not going to hold a gun to somebody who said not to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Any more comments or questions or criticisms? Then I would ask you to get ready to vote on Article 4. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $468,000 as additional funding for the construction of a new police facility. This article will be non-lapsing until 12/31/2027 or completion, whichever comes first. Majority vote is required. It's recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0 and by the Budget Committee 4-1. Everybody understands what they're voting on? All those in favor of Article 4, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed? I'm going to ask my counters to come up and verify this count. And Jill and yeah. All those in favor of Article 4 as read, please signify by raising your voting cards.
I was counting there. Yes.
You counted everything back here?
Yes. Signify by raising your voting cards.
Can you repeat yourself, please? Can you repeat yourself, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you repeat what you just said?
All those who are opposed to Article 4, please signify by raising your voting cards.
Thank you.
Counters count. For Article 4, the votes are 62 aye, 68 nay. The article has failed, and I declare the article is not passed. Moving on to Article 5. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400,000 for the preparation and paving of major town through roads. Majority vote is required and is recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0 and by the Budget Committee 5-0.
I move the article.
Second.
This is our annual paving budget. It reads a little differently this year, and that will be explained in the next article. Basically, we have had a study done in recent years by the Lakes Region Planning Commission that advised us that we should be increasing our budget incrementally as the years go by, not only to get our roads caught up to snuff, it's going to be really hard to do this year, but to be able to do a little more. And this year, at least for the time being, our plans were to finish the top coat on North Line Road, grind and base coat Federal Corner Road from North Line Road to 109A, and to put a top coat on a portion of the Keene Road. Of course, everything is subject to change, but this is why we have a slight increase in the budget, and we were planning, hopefully, to spend it this year.
Any comments or questions regarding Article 5?
Gary Ennis, as far as spending $400,000 to fix the roads, why don't we do what the state of New Hampshire has done? Do absolutely nothing. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions regarding Article 5?
Max Ledoux. I've noticed there's some differentiation between major town through roads, and the next article is Tufton Borough neighborhood roads. What does that mean?
That will be explained when the next article is moved forward, but for the moment, what we've done is we've added to the budget because we have roads that aren't through roads, they end in cul-de-sacs. They basically don't go to another road where you can escape, you have to come back out through. And those roads, for example, Tubeck Lane, Shirley Way, these kind of things have been basically ignored way too long. So we're trying to start up a little bit of a reclamation and a rebuilding on some of these roads with a different article. Because we feel our citizens on those roads deserve the same level of consideration that the ones that actually go through. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and does that include the road that we took over last year? I'm blanking on it.
If you mean Fire Pond Road?
No, Willand, I think.
No, we won't be paving that in the near future.
Any other comments or questions regarding Article 5? Seeing none, I will read the article and we will vote. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400,000 for the preparation and paving of major town through roads. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0 and by the Budget Committee 5-0. All those in favor of Article 5, please indicate by raising your voting cards. All those opposed in a like manner. The ayes clearly have it, and I declare Article 5 is passed. Article 6, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the preparation and paving of Tufton Borough neighborhood roads. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0 and by the Budget Committee 5-0.
I move the article.
Second? Who said second? Chris Sawyer. Thank you. Bill, would you like to speak?
I would. So, for a number of years, there's been discussion about rebuilding some of the residential streets that are not through roads that continue to deteriorate. And the board decided this year that a way for us to make sure that we do that is to provide a specific article for paving only of neighborhood roads. When we took a ride around with the road agent in the fall and looked at some of these roads, Shirley Way, Tubeck Lane, Pine Mill, we determined that we would put together an article to spend $100,000 on neighborhood roads. And at that time, the board determined that Shirley Way would probably be the road that we start the work on this coming year. Obviously, winter sometimes has a different effect on roads than what we saw in the fall, but that was the intent when we looked at the roads in the fall, is that we would start this rebuilding program on Shirley Way.
Questions? Susan?
Susan Weeks. Are these town roads or just roads in town?
No, these are all town roads.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Hi, Jeff Newcomb, Shirley Way. About a year and a half ago, the 39 residents of Shirley Way submitted a petition to the selectmen to take some action on Shirley Way, Chandler Road, and then that expanded not through our efforts, but I believe Tubeck Lane, and what's the other one, Canaan? What's the other one?
Pine Mill Drive.
Pine Mill Drive. And the reason for this is I've been in Shirley Way 8 years. Nothing has been done on that road well prior to my taking up residence there. When the road was taken over by the town in some year that I don't know, I'm sorry, when it's 12, 15 years ago, it was a base layer was put down on that road. Nothing has been touched on that road in 12, 15, maybe it's 18 years, I have no idea. The road is deteriorating, not just deteriorating, it's disappearing in spots. The plows chew up the edges of it every year. There are places where you have to go to the center of the road in order to not get into the dirt on the side or get your car stuck. The grade from the top of Chandler Road, which is in no great shape itself, that has cracks that I've shown in selectmen that are sometimes a foot and more wide. The grade from the end of Chandler up to, as it goes to Shirley, up to this grade, the lateral level of that road is like this. The plows cannot plow the road because the blades go over the top because the road's like this. And on that corner, the first corner, there's a pothole about this big, forces you into the other lane as people are coming down the road. There's alligator cracking all over it. The far side, which I don't even get to until I walk, there's places where the road is gone on the edges. And so we beg you to please be understanding of, there's 40 families in Shirley Way alone, let alone one on Chandler. There's another side road there. There's the people on Canaan, the people on Tubeck. These roads have been untouched for years. And the main roads, the through roads, that's great. And all those other things are great, but we need some help, folks. Please help us out. And this will not be only this year, because I understand, I hate to bring this up, but I think the total that I read somewhere, just to redo Shirley Way, because they never put a top coat on it. Don't ask me who was responsible for that, because I wasn't here. If they had, we wouldn't be having this discussion, because it would be probably okay today. But I think to rebuild Shirley Way alone is something like $268. Did I see that number somewhere? $268. So the 100 is only going to do a part of our road, let alone Chandler, let alone Tubeck. And these, again, these places have been neglected. I'm not blaming anybody, but we gotta do something, guys. We gotta do something, all right? It's gonna be a dirt road again pretty soon. Thank you.
Sir?
Yes.
I didn't get your name when you started out.
That was intentional. Jeffrey Newcomb.
Thank you, Jeff. Are there any more questions or comments regarding? Yes, sir. Mr. Rollins.
Bill Rollins, Melvin Village. I ask this question most every year, and I'm going to ask it again this year because we're spending more money than we normally do. I want to know if we have to take the lowest bid every year to the company that's going to do our asphalting. And the second question is it possible that maybe we're using a lower grade of asphalt, that the town roads are going to hell a lot faster than they normally would? And the third question is, the reason I say that is because having lived here for 50 years, I've noticed that the town highway department uses way more salt than they ever have in their life. It's almost like the state road, you go out after a snowstorm and you have clouds of white powder coming up, and the town roads are getting pretty close to that. And I don't believe the asphalt can handle it. Thank you.
Any more questions, comments regarding Article 5? I guess it's 6, actually. Not hearing any objections, we will move to a vote. I will read the article. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the preparation and paving of Tuftonboro neighborhood roads. Majority vote is required. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0 and the Budget Committee 5-0. All those who are in favor of Article 6, please indicate by raising your voting cards. All those opposed signify in a like manner. The ayes have it, and I declare Article 6 is passed. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to establish an expendable trust fund to be known as the Police Vehicle Expendable Trust Fund for the purchase of purchasing, equipping, and refitting police vehicles for the town of Tuftonboro, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $80,000 to be placed into this fund. Furthermore, to appoint the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend both principal and interest from this fund. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Selectmen 3-0, and the Budget Committee 5-0.
I'd like to move this article.
Who gave a second? Thank you. Your name?
Steve Cloutier, C-L-O-U.
Thank you, Steve. No?
This is a warrant article. It's a little different than the usual for a police cruiser. We have a recommendation from the CIP that we do need to replace at least one police cruiser. Our concern as a Board of Selectmen is that there aren't any police cruisers available. So is there a market that's going to develop for police cruisers in the future this year? We don't know. That said, we can repair the police cruisers that we currently have, but we don't have funding in our operating budget to do that. We could refit those a police cruiser to go through this coming year. So this gives us a little more flexibility in how we address the cruiser issue with the police department, and gives us the ability to not necessarily buy a new cruiser, but perhaps repair the cruisers that we have.
Are there any comments or questions regarding Article 7?
Galvin, two-part question. First
first part is I'm going to ask the police chief to explain the logic behind this. Because I spent many years in law enforcement doing cruiser contracts, and I don't understand this logic at all. It makes no sense to me that we need to have a separate recharged trust fund for things that should be line item budget pieces. Now I know that one of the selectmen returned an email to say this is all part of your capital budget process. In 20 years of doing contracts, I've never seen a police cruiser budgetary item not be a budgetary item. So, Andy, if you would, I'm going to ask if you could put some logic around this so people can understand it.
We've traditionally put them in as a warrant article because we don't get one every year to some places that would expense them. As far as how it's worded, that was the decision of the selectmen to do it that way as opposed to a warrant article to purchase a vehicle. I would note it does not say repair in the wording, so I don't know that we could use it for repairs. It would be outside the worded verbiage of the warrant article. And I do believe we can get a vehicle. But obviously the costs are up. I spoke to a dealer today. They canceled orders last year, but he said that if I get an order in by May 5th, it could be on to be built in September. But unfortunately, the costs keep going up. And so I don't have a set price yet, but just the equipment that goes in it costs, and it basically needs to be all new. If we're just to 80,000, will probably just get us a vehicle, that's it. Because the equipment that goes in it is very old, and there's nothing that can be transferred over essentially, for the most part. Just for example, the radio that goes in it, there's two of them that are out of date. They're like $5,600 a piece. The radar, maybe $2,700 for radar. The video system's about $5,500 last year. So those prices are all going up. The light bar and the controller's around $3,000. So the last vehicle we got 2 years ago was $70,500 for a benchmark, and they've gone up at least $6,000 in base cost. But that was with everything equipped into it, and depending on how this works, we may be able to transfer a few things over to save some money.
You want to add anything to that? Are there any more? Yes, Max.
Max Ledoux. A little confused. You said repairs. The chief says not in the warrant article we can't repair the vehicles. I also haven't heard, do we need a new cruiser? Last time I drove by the police station, there was a cruiser that had been plowed in because it's not being used right now. And I'm also confused because you said we don't have the money, but earlier you said that we spent $200,000 less than was budgeted or appropriated, rather, last year. So how do you square we don't have enough money with we have $200,000 laying around? And why did you say repairs when it's not enough?
Okay, just to clarify two things. First, it does say refit. I think that accomplishes repairing the current vehicles. We have $200,000 that we did not spend out of the total operating budget. The town legislature, which is you people, tell us line by line what we're going to spend and approve the budget. So we can't spend outside of the budget that was created in 2021. We can't take the $200,000 that we've saved from underspending 2021 allocated to something that we want to buy in 2022. We have to ask. So we're asking for $80,000 to put towards police cruisers.
Just real quick. I understand you can't spend money in 2022 that was appropriated for 2021. I'm saying in 2022, you can spend the money anywhere. That's the law. You don't have to follow the line items. You can reallocate it and spend it anywhere. You just can't go over the top line. And that's something that you should keep in mind for the budget, which is the last article. That's the law. And you know that.
Yeah, we can spend to the limit of the budget. I agree with that. The rest of it, not so much.
Go ahead, Bob.
Bob McCord, Melvin Village. I'm in support of the article. I agree with Chief that repairs are not specific, so it'd be nice to have the attorney give us a go that we can go and do body work and put new motors in it with that $80,000. That would be helpful, I think.
I make a note that the attorney is
signaling
in the affirmative.
Good, great.
Refitting, she says, covers a lot of things.
Secondly, Chip, it is not credible that there are no police vehicles available for sale. I just don't believe it. So I don't think that's a good reason to try and convince us to spend this money. And thirdly, I think we have 5 police cars, one of them's a spare. I know Chief's had some issues with people not being around, so it looks like there's more cars than maybe we need at times. But this will be the second year in a row that we haven't replaced a cruiser according to the schedule that the town and the selectmen have always agreed on. And I think it's an 8-year cycle, Chief? Every 8 years? I think it's every 8 years. So now this is the second time that we are not going to be replacing a police vehicle. But anyway, I'm in favor of the article, but I just thought I'd point out, and I'll help you shop for a car if you need.
Are there any more comments, questions regarding this Article 7?
Am I understanding, I'm going to follow up on Max Ledoux's question. Am I understanding, Chip, that by the language in this article, what you're really asking people for is to be able to take some of that $200,000 and spend it for a police car?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't hearing.
No, and just to clarify, the wording of this article, regardless of the apocryphal information that may be bouncing around about the availability of police cruisers, the last time we bought a police cruiser, it took our police chief until December to get it into service. So if there are fewer police cruisers available, and there are fewer police cruisers available, this gives us the opportunity, if we need to repair the police cruiser that we have. And it doesn't preclude us from buying a police cruiser if it's available. It just gives us more latitude as the year goes forward.
And I'm not against buying the car. What I'm trying to get to the bottom of is the language seems to be a little fishy. That's what I'm getting to. And if historically the way we've done this is to just have a straight out warrant article for the purchase of a replacement car, why was it not languaged that way so that everybody had a clear understanding of exactly what was being asked?
Just for clarification, we're putting this into a capital reserve. If for some reason we can't replace or repair the police cruisers that we need, that'll remain in a capital reserve. We're not going to be coming back in 2023 and needing another warrant article for a police cruiser. So it doesn't lapse. If we were to put a warrant article in here for a police cruiser for 2022, for this year, and we're unable to acquire that cruiser, that money would lapse and we'd have to go through this whole process again. So that was another reason for the wording.
Barry Ennis. The selectmen, I was on the budget committee, and the selectmen presented this article towards us, and it was basically to rebuild an existing police car or two rather than buy a new one, sending a car out, having it completely retrofitted, and making it as new as it can be, which is why I supported the bill. I thought that was a good idea. And they say repair or replace. When they say replace a police cruiser, does that mean that you buy a new one and you trade one in? Or do you buy a new one and keep the old one and keep running it, which is the one that's probably going to need to be retrofitted? Thank you.
So I just want to say it actually is helpful to have it as a capital reserve for the very reason it was pointed out, because if it built in September, I don't know, that's when they start building them. Who knows when it will get here, and it may be early next year when it gets here, and then we have to wait for parts. I mean, that's what's happened in the past. We've had the car sitting here for months waiting for parts to make it here to finish it. That's what happened with the last one, why it wasn't on the road till December. We got it like in July, so by having it as a reserve, that actually is a good thing, so it's not a bad thing. To answer the question about our vehicles, so we have one vehicle that's 2011, we purchased it, so it's 11 years old, it's got almost 140,000 miles, and it's rusting, it looks to me like it could get structural soon. That's gonna be gone. I mean, I don't think fixing that is worth it. You're gonna spend more fixing it than the vehicle's worth it. The other one that's 9 years old, that should have been replaced last year, is the truck. It's low mileage because while other people, we had shortage of people, that was parked because it's not the most efficient one to ride and use patrol day by day. Fuel efficiency on the truck is not as good as the others, and it's not as good for everyday patrol as the others. I typically use that because I'm more administrative than the others, but when people are out, I try to use the other vehicles. That truck has low mileage, but it's rusting all over. And then the other part of that is we've got another vehicle coming behind that should be replaced next year that's starting to show some rust and is high mileage. So as this goes, we've put off 2 purchases in the past years. We've skipped a year and we skipped another year last year. We typically had an 8-year cycle for replacements. I'm spending a lot of time on repairs now and time shipping them to places to get repaired. Last week we were down to 2 cars because 3 of them were in different states of needing fixes, and that's a lot of time for 2 officers to drop them off and pick them up. It's not just a matter of the cost to repair it, there's also a time factor. When you only have 2 officers available and both of them are shipping cars to shops, that's a hidden cost that you don't necessarily see. That's time off the road that everybody's not going to see an officer around.
Thanks. We need to get back to the article, which is to see whether or not we want to establish this expendable fund. Are there any more questions or comments regarding Article 7? Seeing none, I will read the article. To see if the town will vote to establish an expendable trust fund to be known as the Police Vehicle Expendable Trust Fund for the purpose of purchasing, equipping, and refitting police vehicles for the town of Tuftonboro, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $80,000 to be placed into this fund. Furthermore, to appoint the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend both principal and interest from this fund. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, and the Budget Committee 5-0. All those who are in favor of Article 7 as read, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed signify in a like manner. The ayes clearly have it. I declare Article 7 is passed. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to purchase a baler and container for the purpose of implementing a paper recycling program at the transfer station as voted and approved by warrant Article 16 of the 2021 warrant.
Go ahead.
I was just going to point out that the majority vote is required, and this is recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, and the Budget Committee 5-0.
And I'll move the question.
Comments, questions regarding Article 8?
Steve Renzer, Melvin Village. I'm interested in knowing what you see as the economic life of the equipment that we're buying, and how long will it take to recover the initial cost in terms of the return on investment?
As I'm sure you're aware, Steve, the market value of the product that we might recycle is going to determine how much we may actually be able to recoup from paper. As far as how long it's going to take, if at all, to recoup this cost, that's anyone's guess, in my opinion. However, last year, as the article says, the voters said they would like to recycle paper. This is the cost it's going to take to get the equipment to do it. It does not include the operating cost of a person who has to deal with this paper. That will be determined by how much volume of paper comes in, obviously. I don't know if you've read the transfer station article in the town report, but this paper stuff is really tricky. It has to be made super clean, so that an envelope with a viewing window inside has to have that plastic taken completely out, or it could destroy a whole bale's value. So I can only answer part of your question because too much of it is in the future debate.
Well, I would hope that in spending the taxpayer money, we would look at what kind of return we expect to have, or to simply say we're just going to flush it down the drain and this is what it's going to cost. I have experience in the recycling industry.
Yes.
And I can tell you a lot of the paper that gets recycled winds up being burned at the power plant.
I'm not
which
surprised.
is not a bad use, but it's not environmentally
Thank you. You've helped me quite a bit by saying that. You know more about it than I do. Anyway, this is the will of the voters. This is what we've come up with for this price to purchase that equipment. Going forward, again, it's a crapshoot, basically.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Dave Goffinet. I just want you to understand, and I'm going to reiterate what's already been said. If you vote for this, you want to recycle, you are agreeing to do so in a responsible manner. As Guy already said, there's a lot of things that can contaminate the recycled product and make the whole stream get thrown away. So please understand, if you vote for this, and I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, I don't care how you vote. All I'm saying is if you vote for this, you are essentially signing a contract saying you're willing to do so in a manner that's acceptable and recommended. Because otherwise, it's all just going to get thrown away anyway, and we will have wasted the $25,000 that we're going to spend on it. So just be aware that you have to be responsible with it.
Other questions and comments? I see two coming. Take him first. Go ahead, sir.
Stephen Cludier, Mirror Lake. My understanding of things, and I may be in error here, is that there is not a market for paper at the moment. Can anybody refute that or support that? As far as I know, the paper is not a marketable thing at this point. So we're throwing it into the trash stream, which does cost us money, by the way. But I'm just wondering if we buy this thing, if we're going to be able to get rid of the paper any more than we are. We may or may not be doing ourselves anything. And it's all feel good in this at that point. So does anybody know if there's a market for baled clean paper?
So there is a market. There is a market for clean paper. The requirement is very strict on it, which is why we're looking at this additional equipment and manning to deal with it. I don't know what the value today of a bale of clean paper is, but there is a market for it.
I think it would be awesome to be able to recycle paper. I just want to make sure we can do it.
Right.
Max Ledoux. I just wanted to touch on something that Guy alluded to, but I want to make it more specific. The cost of this article is not, in fact, $25,000, because if you look at the budget for the transfer station, you'll see a line for a new position. This year we spent 0 on that position because it didn't exist. Next year they are asking for, I can't remember the exact number, say between $35,000 and $42,000. So keep that in mind. It says $25,000. That's not the actual price, because we have to, as Guy said, we have to pay somebody to go and peel the plastic off of every envelope and peel the postage stamps off, etc. The staples, everything. Sounds like a good job. I think maybe I'll apply.
Selectman Mark? Bob Murray. I think recycling paper is a good idea if we do it right, and there's a market for it. But we've got a couple hundred people in this room that's going to make a decision for 2,200 residents and God knows how many summertime residents that are going to throw anything they want in that paper pile in the rest of the year. I'm not so sure this is a good idea. I like recycling, but I'm not sure this is a good idea.
Gary?
I just want to remind us all that...
You're Gary Shahams, right?
I still am.
Okay.
I just want to remind us all that at our last town meeting, the town overwhelmingly indicated its support to investigate and go forward with recycling paper. At the time, I knew it was going to be kind of a challenge because of the new requirements. But let me point out to you that the requirements, although strict, would not be fatal if we had 1 error or 2 errors along the stream. The components of recycling involve a special machine and a special person who has been trained to cull out the non-recyclable components of the paper, i.e. glass windows or plastic, that type of thing. In the budget committee, we put in enough money for a per diem employee to be doing this pretty much during all the hours that the recycling center is open. If the actual demand for that person is not such that we have to have them there all the time, that person will work fewer hours. So that person will actually work the amount of time that's needed to do the recycling, but no more. The machine is required, of course, but we're not going to destroy the machine if we have 1 error along the way. Also, it was reported to us that there is a market for recyclable paper, and that it's coming up a little bit. Not as well as it used to be, but it is going forward. So I think that we should go along with what the town indicated that it would like us to do. We certainly approached the matter in the budget committee. I know the selectmen have also, in a very prudent manner. It won't be unbearably expensive, and I think it will make us all feel a lot better.
So, yes, Bill Rollins. I was just wondering how the voluntary recycling center that we have would fit in with all this. We are not a mandatory recycling center. So in other words, if you go to the transfer station and you're having a bad day, which I've seen over there a lot, you can dump anything you want into those containers and just mosey on home. So I'm certainly for recycling paper, but I think we've done pretty good in the last 3 or 4 years myself, but I don't know how that fits in. So if somebody goes over there, we buy this new machine, and the employees that work there, oh, you gotta take that so we can fill up our bin. Well, I don't think we'll have anybody there to, enforce it, that's all. Thank you.
Sorry for the extra time, but I can't help it. Some basics here. We buy stuff, we're responsible for it. And we run out of space to dump all this stuff that we don't want. Bethlehem's gonna close pretty soon, and the people up there are really happy because every time the wind blows, wherever it's blowing, the direction it's blowing in, that paper runs in that direction, and it's all over Bethlehem. If it's our stuff we're throwing away, we should bury it right here. But we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that in our neighborhood. So we're responsible. Recycling's a good thing. If it doesn't work really great, we should work on it, get it to work. We just have to stop wasting all this stuff. Think about inflation. We've heard a lot about that today. A lot of that inflation is because we just go out and buy stuff, no matter what the price is, and then we throw it away. We've got to get smarter about our lives and take a little responsibility for the way things are going on this planet. I say let's recycle. Let's work hard at it. Let's make it work.
Now, Chris.
So I just want to point out one thing. I'm not against recycling, and we do have a voluntary recycle. We are, and I believe it goes pretty good. But at the town meeting last year, it was 98 people. There's 120 here tonight. So just remember, when you're voting, you got a lot more people you're thinking about, and yeah, they're too bad they're not here. Absolutely 100%. But as Bob Murray said, the concept is great. It's a very good concept. But our town grows exponentially in the summer, and those people are not going to take the time. And do we actually have a fully trained person to take over this per diem position right now when the equipment comes in?
Thank you. Are there any more comments, questions regarding Article 8? Seeing none, I shall read the article to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to purchase a baler and container for the purpose of implementing a paper recycling program at the transfer station as voted and approved by warrant Article 16 of the 2021 warrant. Majority vote is required. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, and the Budget Committee 5-0. All those who are in favor of Article 8, please signify by raising your voting cards. Those opposed, please signify in a like manner. Oh boy. We're going to have to count them again. If my counters could please take their positions. All those in favor of Article 8, please signify by raising your voting cards. I apologize.
You said yes.
All those opposed, please signify by raising your voting cards.
All those opposed.
All those opposed, raise your voting card.
Thank you.
Voting on Article 8. The ayes are 61, the nays 65. Article 8 has failed, and I declare it unpassed. I might mention right here, I had a little speech about reconsideration at the beginning of our meeting. We've now taken several votes, and it might be appropriate, I won't say it will be, it's your choice, but if you wish to restrict reconsideration and ensure that the votes we've taken are the votes that will be that will be reported tomorrow morning, then someone might want to make a motion to restrict reconsideration.
Mr. Moderator, I move to restrict reconsideration.
So who seconded that? Bob McWhorter seconded. Okay. This is a vote to restrict reconsideration. It doesn't mean it can't be reconsidered. It doesn't mean that we can't come back at a subsequent meeting or a subsequent town meeting and reconsider any of these issues. It does mean, however, that if somebody wants to reconsider the issues tonight, they're going to have to wait a week, and we're going to have to post a notice so that everybody gets an opportunity to re-vote on the issue. Requires a majority vote of the people present to accept the article to restrict reconsideration. As a sort of a negative article, I don't like those, but we're saying if you vote in favor of the motion, you're voting to restrict reconsideration on the votes that we have already taken. Barbara, did I say that right? Okay. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration on the votes already taken, please indicate by raising your voting cards. All those who are opposed to restricting, I think the ayes clearly have it in this case. That means if anyone wishes, if the town meeting wishes to reconsider this, they must do so with proper notice and with a delay in time. Okay. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further, to raise and appropriate $5,000 to be put in the fund. Said sum to come from the unassigned fund balance. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse into the general fund. Majority vote is required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0, and the Budget Committee 5-0.
I move the article.
And you are? Sean. Thanks, Sean. Sean Christian, second. Okay.
So this is an annual article that we put on the warrant to provide some funding for any purpose for which there is no money budgeted this year, that provides us with the opportunity, should something arise that had not been foreseen at all, to expend funds on it. We did not expend any funds in 2021, and I don't know, I don't believe we have in my memory, but it provides a legal safety valve for the town, so that if there is a purpose for which no money has been budgeted, that we find ourselves in a situation where we need to make an expenditure, that we can legally do it.
Are there any comments or questions regarding Article 9?
Max Ledoux. I'd like to, excuse me? Did you say something?
Max, go ahead.
For the record, what Bob Fett said was Jesus. I'd like to make a motion to change the amount from $5,000 to $1.
What's the point?
I need a second before we can talk about it.
I'll second it. What's the point?
Okay. So, as Bill said, we didn't spend anything last year. In his memory, we've never spent anything here. As Chip confirmed earlier, we actually spent $200,000 less than we had appropriated last year. Chip also confirmed that they can spend money anywhere they want from any line item they want, as long as they don't go over the total amount of the budget. So, let's say there was something that they needed to spend money on, like a new podium, and it cost $100. The line item here would say that we had appropriated $1, but they had spent $100. We don't need to appropriate $5,000 just for the $5,000 to go into the unassigned fund balance. This is a sneaky way to increase that fund balance every year. It doesn't matter the money that's on this line. We could say 20,000 if you prefer. We could say 100,000. It literally doesn't matter.
Max, did you write that motion down?
It would just be striking 5,000 and making it 0.
Can you do that? Making it $1, I think is what you said.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, that's what I meant. Thank you.
Are there any other comments regarding just the amendment, not the motion itself, but we're commenting on the amendment that Max has offered to reduce the amount from $5,000 to $1? Susan?
Susan Weeks. It's crazy. The 5,000 comes from fund balance and goes back to fund balance if it's not spent, right?
That's correct.
Are you going to raise our taxes to get the 5,000? That's not what this says, is it?
No.
So it's not costing us anything. It's not sneaky. It's not increasing the fund balance. It's there. It started back, how many years ago, Guy, when the fire truck got stolen and crashed. And we couldn't get it fixed because we had no line item for that. And this is the law. This is the way government money works. So this is ludicrous to be wasting time. Just pass it.
Any other comments regarding Max Ledoux's motion to reduce the sum of Article 9? All those in favor of the motion by Max Ledoux to reduce the dollar value of Article 9 from $5,000 to $1, please signify, if you approve, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed? I think the noes have it, and we'll move on to the main motion. Is there any further discussion on the main motion? Seeing none, I will read the article. To see if the town will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further to raise and appropriate $5,000 to put in this fund, said sum to come from the unassigned fund balance. Any appropriation left in the fund at year end will lapse into the general fund. All those in favor of Article 9, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed in a like manner? I think the ayes have it, and I declare Article 9 is passed. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee recommended sum of $4,409,342 for general town operations. The Selectmen recommended $4,424,340. This article does not include any special or individual warrant articles. Majority vote is required, and the Budget Committee has recommended their number by a vote of 5-0.
I'd like to move the article.
Thank you. Ted, would you like to speak to the article?
Yeah, the difference, just so you're clear on how these two numbers came about, we put our budget together in the fall, working into December. We had one department who, late in the budget process, found a $15,000 discrepancy. We had already voted on the operating budget. So when it went before the Budget Committee, they were able to adjust the budget down due to that $15,000.
Any other questions or concerns regarding Article 10? Bob?
We had two articles fail, $468,000 and $25,000. I would like to move the new budget line to $3,916, $3,916,340.
They're not part of the operating budget, Bob.
I stand corrected.
Okay. The articles themselves are not included in the operating budget. We're voting on the operating budget.
So, I don't want to see a show of hands, because, anyway. So I don't care how you vote. I know how I'm going to vote on this budget. I have to tell you, being on the Budget Committee and seeing the actual budgets for the town is a real eye-opener. Some of it really great, and some of it really not so great. When you go and you raise your card, whether you vote yes or no, I hope you have looked at this operating budget you are going to vote on. I hope you've looked at the lines. I hope you have taken the time, because I've spoken to a lot of people, and before I posted on one of the social medias, are you kidding me? Wow, I didn't know we spent that. And like I said, some of it's really great, and I totally agree with it, and some of it I don't, but that's okay. The other thing is, at the last meeting we had, there was also an addition of $40,000 because the state came back and said our values were off, and they want to reassess our values this year. So keep that in mind when you are voting on this overall operating budget. And that was a recommendation made by the state. The selectmen just took, the recommendation of the state because our property values are off according to the state. So if you pass this, we're all going to get reevaluated.
Any other comments and questions regarding Article 10, the operating budget?
Steve Resident, Melvin Village. I think that part of the complication here is that perhaps the voters don't really understand at what point can they be able, are they able to impact the budget amounts? Because the budget committee spends a lot of time throughout the year working on the budget process. And you gentlemen also spend a lot of time working on the budget process. But when we get to town meeting, it's one big number. And I don't know that it's the time to try to consider whether it should be 100,000 more or 100,000 less. So maybe in the future we can talk about when is the best time so that the public has more input into the budget process and the actual budget amount.
I'll address that. If the public wishes to attend the budget committee meetings, which are open to the public, that is an ideal time to have input as far as the budgets. Traditionally, I sit there. Okay? So that's the best time to have an impact on the budgets, in my opinion.
Bill Rollins, Melvin Village. The perfect time to argue about this budget is to attend the public hearing on the budget. You can sit there and listen to line by line by line. And if you think Bill Rollins is making too much money working at the dump, you can bring that up. This isn't the time to argue about the total of the budget. The time to do that is at the public hearing where you might get some satisfaction. Thank you.
Gordon Hunt again. Budget's up approximately 5% this year, which is actually below the rate of inflation. We started the whole budget process this year with a cost of living increase approved by the employees' recommendation of 4.6% on the part of the selectmen. We were close. We're going to be under 5% until the very last meeting when we had the recommendation to add $40,000 to the assessing line to do a total assessment of the town. We're a payroll-driven business, so when you're a payroll-driven business and you've got that kind of cost of living increase, which we felt was fair, that's where the increase is. Things cost, they're going to continue to cost. But overall, I have to commend the selectmen coming in and the department heads came with pretty prudent numbers. Nothing seemed to be really off base to us. Thank you.
I gotta give the last word, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Chip, how many employees do we have? Town employees?
14, I think it is.
We have 14 town employees.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments or questions regarding Article 10, the operating budget for the town?
I guess the only other comment I want to make is that the State of New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration has determined that our assessed values on our housing here in Tufton were off by about 27%. So they were having your tax bills adjusted to accommodate for that. That's not the fairest way to do tax assessment, but that's what happens when the valuations are that far off. The $40,000 that's in this budget is to reevaluate the whole town so that the actual value of your home is reflected in the taxable property that we have. If the value of all the property in Tuftonboro goes up, that doesn't mean your taxes are going to go up. Your tax rate will go down. We're not trying to raise any more money. And actually, with the loss of the two warrant articles that we wrote down, we're actually raising $338,000 less this year than we did last year. So Gordon's percentage was correct if everything had passed. The operating budget is up 5%, but the overall budget, including warrant articles, is actually down. So that, in combination with the undesignated fund balance increase from underspending last year's budget, will make it so that this coming October, we're going to be able to moderate the taxes even further. So I just want to be clear clear how the system works. Just because your assessed value goes up doesn't mean your taxes go up. Your net worth goes up. Should have to happen.
You bet your life.
Further to Chip's point, if you want to look at how your taxes are driven, our friend Jack over here, Jack Whitmer, the school district number, the town amount is a rounding error compared to what we have from the school district standpoint. So keep that in mind. We're not that we're not sensitive to a couple of $100,000 one way or the other for the town, but the big number is over there.
Quick, Jack.
No, that's okay. You're all right, Steve, but based on the vote that you made yesterday on the school district budget, Tufton Borough's taxes are actually going to go down 7 cents. So,
Thank you. All right, are there any more comments or questions regarding Article 10? Hearing none, I will reread the article. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee recommended sum of $4,409,340 for general town operations. The Selectmen recommended $4,424,340. This article does not include any special or individual warrant articles. All those in favor of Article 10, please signify by raising your voting cards. All those opposed, signify in a like manner. I think the ayes clearly have it, and I declare Article 10 passed. At this point, I would ask for any comments that are for the good of the order, or a motion to go home. What's that? I was trying to remember the word, adjourn isn't quite the right word. It's supposed to terminate. We want to terminate this meeting tonight. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you very much.
Would you do me a favor?